Hello, Breakfast Clubbers. Well, JJ Talks couldn't post a video starting a new round robin because I think she needs to perform an exorcism or something. And then Kazoom was driving across country from the East Coast to the West Coast, and so he can't post a video. And so the channel's gone a little bit silent, but I wouldn't dare presume that I could start two round robin discussions in a row. So for my video filling in for Nathan, who's also unable to post at this time, I'm going to respond to Ginger Greek because at the time that he made his video about hashtag #MeToo and posted it here on the Breakfast Club, I didn't feel like I had a dog in that fight. That I really wasn't feeling like I know anyone personally that has any problems like that, and it wasn't really hitting home. But since then, I've had some reactions to some news stories because this thing keeps on spreading, this meme, and people who are just coming forward with their stories. And the first one that made me think a little contrary to Ginger Greek was the story about George H.W. Bush, George Bush Sr., to those of you who don't know the difference between the two. He was outed for having sexually assaulted a couple women by grabbing their butts in a joke, which was not like behind closed doors. It wasn't like in a way where he was pressuring them for doing anything where they would have felt any kind of quid pro quo situation. No, this was a joke that he said and performed right in front of his wife, Barbara, right? So the joke was, and he said his intent was to bring some levity to, you know, the seriousness of meeting the former president, right? The joke was, hey, you know who my favorite magician is? And then he would reach over from his wheelchair and grab someone's butt and say, David Copperfield. Right? Which I actually think is pretty funny, and part of the humor in it. And I know that things are not funny anymore if you have to explain it, but part of the humor in it is how serious it is to meet the president. It's a juxtaposition of, this is the guy who is like supposed to be the most serious guy on the planet. You know, he had the biggest job on the planet, and here he is making a crass joke such as that. You know, to me it brings to mind jokes that I used to tell in high school about the Pope propping his feet up on his desk and then lighting a cigar and saying, you fuckers are all right, you know, behind closed doors. But, yeah, I had two problems with this story coming out and being part of the hashtag #MeToo wave of people coming out. The first one is, motherfucker's old, all right? He's in his 90s, and he's senile, right? He's obviously, he needs a handler, and of course, when someone is senile, they're going to do things that they might not have done in the prime of their life, right? And even in the accusations that, as they have been posted and spread around the internet, the accusers have said, well, you know, his senility is no excuse. You know, he should still know better. I'm like, no, the definition of senility is you stop, you know, knowing right from wrong. You start acting a little bit differently than you would have. You start acting more like a child. Duh. And that reminds me of people getting up in a tizzy about Richard Dawkins tweeting about how much marmalade he can now take on planes because of added security in the post 9/11 era. And, you know, people having a problem with his positions on very small minutia, right? Here's the thing. In 2012, I met Richard Dawkins. I had dinner with him. at Becky Hale's house, right? And this was in conjunction with a presentation that he was doing for a group I was a board member of. When I met him, he seemed tired, right? And I was told that that would be the last trip he was going to take over to the United States, on a tour for supporting anything, because he's just getting fucking old. And around the same time, the Richard Dawkins Foundation kind of had like a hostile takeover of it by the same people who were running Secular Coalition for America, and the former, I guess, warehouse. It was actually a house that I had visited that had all of the Richard Dawkins web store stuff in it. It was actually moved to like outsourcing totally. They redid it. They didn't want the overhead of it. And anybody who sent any letters to Richard Dawkins saying, "Oh, you've been so good in my life, you've inspired me," and all that, they no longer get personalized responses anymore from the people who worked for RDF, because the new management didn't see that as profitable. Okay? And all of this is happening without Richard Dawkins' involvement, because he's old and tired and he can't watch over his shit. Right? That's it. He is done. And if he tweets out anything that is a little off from now on, I'm not going to think, "Oh, wow, he was a sucky microbiologist who didn't inspire a whole bunch of people to come out as atheists, back in the day." No. I leave his legacy intact for those years that he was in his prime. And I just see as, what he's griping about now is, an old man on his porch saying, "Hey, you kids, get off my lawn." That's life. And that's how I feel about George H.W. Bush. I don't feel like what he did was so wrong as it needs to be included in this hashtag #MeToo fervor, especially when it's done out in the open in front of his wife and goddamn everybody, cameras on, everything. When he makes the joke in public like that, he meant it as a joke, not to impose himself onto somebody else for sexual gratification. Okay? Okay. Anyways, the next thing that really pissed me off happened today, and it also has to do with this wave of allegations towards people in a lot of power and entertainment and whatnot. My favorite show, House of Cards, is getting canceled because another actor decided to come forward with a claim that 30 years ago, Kevin Spacey had sexually assaulted him. And when I saw Kevin Spacey's reaction, he put out a statement to it. Kevin Spacey said, "I have a lot of respect and admiration for Anthony Rapp as an actor. I'm beyond horrified to hear his story. I honestly do not remember the encounter. It would have been over 30 years ago. But if I did behave then as he describes, then I owe him the sincerest apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior, and I'm sorry for the feelings he describes having carried with him all these years." So, in that statement, that's where I take a departure from other people on the left, where they would be firmly in the camp of listen and believe. Do not ever question anyone's statement about sexual misconduct whatsoever. There is no evidence for this thing having happened 30 years ago. No evidence whatsoever. I don't even see any outcry witnesses coming to Anthony Rapp's side saying, "Hey, he told me that 30 years ago, and we've all kept this a secret and let Kevin Spacey have this ginormous career from one of my favorite horror movies, Seven, to my favorite show, House of Cards." and everything in between. They didn't say anything for 30 fucking years. No, there is no one else, right? No one else is coming forward to corroborate this. There's no fucking evidence whatsoever. But even Kevin Spacey himself is part of the cult of listen and believe, so much that he knows that if he does not question one bit that he could, okay, I'm not fucking editing this. Kevin Spacey knows that if he says, oh, well, I don't remember this, and Anthony Rapp has no proof, if he tries to defend himself, then he's attacking a victim, right? He's attacking a fucking victim in that liberal culture in Hollywood, right? I side with them on a lot of things, but god damn it, there's no fucking evidence for this whatsoever, and Kevin Spacey just fucking folds like a lawn chair. I see his email, his tweet out. It says to everyone that the story encouraged him to address other things about his life. He comes out as being a gay actor, right? And then other people start tweeting back, oh no, you don't get to hide under the rainbow. That was like Wanda Sykes. And people saying that he was trying to shift people's attention from him being maybe a possible molester to being gay, and it being a bigger story that he's gay. No, he wasn't the one that brought up that he was gay. The accusation itself contained that. Anthony Rapp's story said, oh, I went to his bathroom and I saw him with a picture, with his arm around another man, and I figured, oh, well, he must be gay, right? So, Anthony Rapp is the one who brought out that he was gay, but, a whole bunch of Hollywood has been tweeting at Kevin Spacey, don't try to use that you're gay to get away from this, scandal, right? He was the one who fucking brought it up in the first place, right? Zachary Quinto, another good actor, right? I loved him in American Horror Story. He's like, it is deeply sad and troubling that this is how Kevin Spacey has chosen to come out. Not by standing up as a point of pride in light of all his many awards and accomplishments, but as a calculated manipulation to deflect attention from the very serious accusation that he attempted to molest, a gay person. What? What? No, it's like they're hearing their news like third and fourth hand, and they're not actually seeing. He was outed by his accuser. It wasn't him that first outed himself. Anthony Rapp decided to out him. And why? I don't know, but I can tell you right now, it would be completely wrong in the face of listen and believe to wonder if somebody who is on a TV show that should do well because it's branded Star Trek, and it's named after a space shuttle, he should be doing well, in his own acting career, but that show's probably going to tank after a season or two, and he's now like, maybe how do I bring some attention to our show that immediately is tanking before it even really takes off and the characters are fleshed out. It's wrong to fucking wonder that, and think, what if he's doing this for gain? 30 fucking years! He had, all the time in the world to fucking come out with this. But it's wrong to fucking think about that. It's wrong to think about how there's no fucking evidence for this whatsoever, and that Kevin Spacey apologizing as much as he can for something that he can't even recall just had his highly successful show House of Cards fucking canceled over something that could be nothing. And I have to wonder, when we get to the point where we haven't had even actual sex happening with people, actual rape, or actual really damaging things happening to people. When we get to the point of just like ass grabbing, you know, like a friendly little pinch on the butt, you know, without saying the word touchdown, so then it's a bad thing because you didn't say touchdown within 10 seconds, or you didn't say no homo. When we get to this point of that being such a fucking offense that it can cancel shows and tarnish fucking reputations and, you know, erase people's legacies, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? How is anyone ever going to hit on another person if whether or not it was sexual harassment depends on whether that person receives it well? I'm damn sure not going to hit on anyone that I don't know is already going to be accepting of that, because fuck, it's too much of a risk. You know? I see condom stock prices plummeting because of less hookups, because of this kind of culture. Anyways, that's me being the contrarian to Ginger Greek. Maybe somebody else on the Breakfast Club wants to fucking post on this. Laters.